Welcome everybody for Moonscapes for July the 5th, 2014. We missed a month last month, some pretty bad weather, bad timing, had some things going on. So thought we'd get one in tonight, and I've got some news to talk about as we look at this beautiful quarter moon tonight. This is actually Moonscapes number 28 in the series. We're looking at Amateur Astronomer right now, and up there in the, well, kind of at the 5 o'clock position, and it's Man Tranquility. Notice the blueness in there. If I turn the blue up a little bit, the little color up a little bit, we can actually get a little more out of it. You can see there, yeah, this is a nice divided line there. As far as news goes, I have a book coming out. I actually have a published book. The title of it is Waxing and Waning, the Memoir of a Amateur Astronomer. I'll repeat that because it's kind of a mouthful. The title of the book is Waxing and Waning, a Memoir of an Amateur Astronomer. It all started about a year ago, just about this time. My family was getting ready to celebrate my birthday. It was coming up in September, so it was not quite a year ago, but and it was my 69th birthday, and I started to think. I'd been an amateur astronomer last year. At that time, it was coming up on 57 years. So this year, as of September 8th, 2014, I will have been an amateur astronomer for 58 years. And I started to think, my family has basically no idea what I've been doing all this time that I've been outside of the telescope. And the idea came to me that, well, I would start to gather all these notes and record books that I had, and here we'll do a little zooming around the moon as I'm blabbing away here. I thought it'd be kind of nice if I, wrote some stuff up and put it together and have it to leave behind for my family to see just what it was I was doing all this time. And then I started to think, well, if I've got people in the family and they're not particularly interested in astronomy, why read? They're not going to read it. So I was just going to sit there and I'm going to go through all this trouble and it's not going to get read. And I started thinking, here we're coming into the southern area of the moon. Look at that beautiful cratered southern portion of the moon. So I started thinking, well, why don't I do it more as a memoir? And just about the same time that happened, I got introduced through our church. We had an intern from Yale Divinity School. And he, I'll zoom in here a little bit, and a little more in detail. Pardon me. And it turns out that he had a master's in writing. And we got talking, and he actually taught a little class on writing, and I got involved with it. And we did some talking, and so I started this idea of putting a memoir / autobiography, because that's what it is. I haven't really been able to get anybody to tell me what the difference between a memoir and an autobiography really is. But anyway, I started writing right around my birthday of last September, and it took me 8 months, and I completed it. I put together a printed version from my printer, including photographs and all, and made a nice cover out of photographic paper with some photographs on it for the cover and for the back, and took it on down to Staples. Well, Staples gave me a price per book, and they said because they had to send it out because of the photographs and all, that it was going to would cost X amount of money. Well, X amount of money turned out to be just about what it was going to cost me per book to get this published. Well, that kind of did it for me, because as good as work as Staples does, when they got done with the Staples version, it kind of was going to just look like an over-glorified version of a high school term paper. So that did it for me. We were going to do the published version. Now, I can hear and think that what some of you are thinking out there right now. Yeah, oh sure, a self-published version. And lots of people out there doing that. Well, you get into the little study in it, and it turns out that 90% of all books published in the United States today are self-published books. And we even have some very well-noted authors that go the self-publishing route, and there's a number of reasons for that. And I'm not going to get into that right now, because that gets way, way beyond what we're talking about. So my idea was, well, you know, it would be nice to give my family member and friends a real published version of a book. So I looked around for some publishers, looked at a number of them, and I took the ones that wanted to see at least 3 chapters of what I was doing. So at least they knew, you know, what I was writing, and and I wasn't just throwing some piece of junk together that they would just publish and put out there. I mean, they wanted to make sure that it was worthy at least of print, which I did, and I got it accepted and had it published. The book now is out on Kindle, Amazon, and Barnes & Noble. Again, my name is James Hannon. You can search for it that way, or you can search for it by the name of the book, which again is Waxing and Waning, a memoir of an amateur astronomer. And you might kind of wonder where waxing and waning came from. Well, if you've been following the moon, it should give you a pretty good hint right there. The moon right now is a waxing moon. It is going from first quarter to full moon. That's called a waxing moon. It's going from, you know, the very thin crescent stage onto the full moon. Once it reaches full moon and starts down to the new moon and the thin crescent of the new moon, it's a waning moon, and it gets to the new moon phase, and of course the cycle repeats. And you stop and think about it, it's kind of what our life does. I don't know about the repeating part, but our life waxes and wanes. We're born and we live our childhood and go through all the different points of our lives, and we get older, as I have done, and going to be 70 in 2 more months, and I'm now in the waning years of my life. So the title fit perfect. The book, it covers from the time I was about 5 years old, standing out in the backyard late one summer eve, just before my first year of school, and we got called in a little bit later than usual one night because my parents were busy with something, and I started noticing the stars coming out at night, and this fascinated me, and that was the start of it. I just couldn't get enough information. I learned from my parents. The stars are very, very far away, but that's all I could get. I couldn't get anything else. My school books were a complete disappointment. When I could get a science book in school that had a beautiful view of the Apennine mountain range, and notice the blue now over in Mare Tranquillitatis, really nice view. And when I did get a chapter in a school book, 9 times out of 10 the teacher would skip the chapter on astronomy, and I always found this to be very strange. And that held all the way through school. I could never figure it out until I got a little older in life. And what I really found out was that a lot of these teachers, just didn't understand astronomy, didn't feel comfortable teaching it, and found it easier to skip over that chapter and just say we didn't have enough time to cover it and go right by it. I had very, very few teachers that would tackle the subject of astronomy in school. But anyway, when I was about 12 years old, I got hooked up with a high school student who was an amateur astronomer, and he took me under his wing. Instead of being a kid that was bothering him, he was kind enough to take me under his wing. We had a ball. We went out, and he was building and finished a 3-inch reflecting telescope. We went out and had a ball. I started learning the night sky and observing everything in it. My first real big night was September 8th, 1956. That's the night that I say I became an amateur astronomer, and that'll be 58 years ago, coming up this September. He moved on a little bit and bought a beautiful 2.4-inch unitron refractor, the beautiful Cadillacs of refractors back in the 1950s and early 60s. And I used $11 of my paper route money and bought, this fellow's name was Tom, and I bought Tom's 3-inch reflecting telescope that he built, and me with that telescope and him with that beautiful 2.4-inch unitron. We went out and had a ball. And then the book covers all phases of my life. It covers the biggest disappointment of my life. I hit my high school years, hit my freshman year, and right away, within 2 weeks, I knew I could not do algebra. I was just a horrible student. As hard as I tried, there was just no way on God's green earth that I was going to be able to get the degrees necessary to become an astronomer. I had all kinds of visions of becoming an astronomer, but there was just no way. I could not do the math and the other higher courses I would need. It became apparent to me very early in life, in early high school, that if I was going to do anything in astronomy, it was going to be as an amateur. I was such a bad student, in fact, that on one hand I was graced with quite a bit of ability in athletics, and that saved me. I actually failed out of my first year of basketball in my freshman year because when I found out just how poorly I was handling these college courses, I flunked off the basketball team my freshman year. My parents, especially my mother, stepped in and went to the school and talked to them, and they worked with me through my freshman year, got me on the baseball teams so I could pass and play baseball through the spring of my freshman year. As long as I continued to work and try as hard as I could. And then they set me up with courses more to my abilities in my sophomore year, and I went on through my high school years. And you have to realize I was such a poor student that it was horrifying for me every day to go to school. I was scared to death to be called in front of the class and have to go to, and I'll show my age here, and call it a blackboard. Call it that blackboard, stand in front of a group of my fellow students and show just how backward I was. I to this day, I'm a horrible speller. I can't spell to save my life. I'll drive my wife crazy every day asking her how to spell something, and thank God for spell check in the computers. And a lot of times in the stuff that I write in the computers, you'll see it'll be wrong because a lot of the English words, of course, mean the same thing and are spelled differently, things like that. But I found my niche in athletics, varsity athletics. I was captain of the basketball team. My junior year, we won the state championship on the basketball team. That was my junior year, the 5 stars in that team, and I was a 6th or 7th man on that team. And was elected captain of the 1963 team. We had a great season. We were undefeated my junior year, and we went 15-3 my junior year, where not much was expected of us, and darn nearly won the state championship again. And I had a great time with baseball also. I mean, so athletics basically saved my life in high school. It kind of validated me as a person in that class. And I have to say, I went to school. We just had our 50th class reunion with a bunch of great students. Not one time did I ever get put down or made fun of because of the problems that I would have in school. Of course, and then that was the time of the Vietnam War. I ended up going into the Navy. I was seeing a very nice young lady. And as usually happens in those types of situations, when you go off, this young lady was about to go off to college, and I was going off to serve in the Navy during the Vietnam War, and within 2 months I got the classic Dear John letter. That was another tough pill to swallow. Somebody that you become very, very attached to, and all of a sudden they don't want to be part of your life anymore. And that was very, very difficult. This is all in the book. I write about all this. But every time something like this happened, I always went back to astronomy. I always went back to astronomy. I served my time in the Navy, and my first day back to work, after making a vow that I would not be taken down the path like I did with that first Dear John letter again by any other girl, it didn't take long. My first day back to work, I saw the most beautiful creature I've ever seen in my life. And you'll have to read about it in your book if you get a chance to pick up that book. And I saw this beautiful girl, and looking at her through a window from the floor of the warehouse to the office where she was working. I actually walked into a door looking at her, and just as she looked at me, and I thought that was it. She's got to say, well, this guy's a real idiot. And as it turned out, not so. I ended up having coffee with her that afternoon, and 46 years later, and we are still together, and I owe her an awful lot. She's backed me in my astronomy days all along. There's lots of things that she's backed me with that I don't know if I would have gone and done if it hadn't been for her. After I came out of the Navy, of course, and married her, it was really time to get into astronomy. I built my first light-off roof observatory. And my whole thing was I wanted to do research. That was the reason I wanted to get into astronomy. I loved the idea of research. And that was the idea of building an observatory. I wanted to get somehow involved with research work in astronomy. And I ended up settling on variable star research. Over here we're coming on Mare Crisium, and there's Proclus. There's that bright ray. That crater always fascinates me. That had to be a very oblique strike. How much? We don't have a lot of zoom left. Oh, by the way, before I go any farther on my little story here, I'm using a brand new eyepiece. This is a 12 millimeter Meade. I now have every one of those Meade 60-degree eyepieces, and the last one, the 4.5 millimeter, I have on back order. So pretty soon I will have the whole set, and I do a little series, and we'll show you that. In fact, when my book comes in, well, we'll talk about that as I finish my story here in a little bit. Anyway, I went on and I got involved with the American Association of Variable Star Observers. Those observations are all recorded and made available for professional use. I worked with a group called the Center for Backyard Astrophysics at Columbia University. I worked with Douglas Hall of Vanderbilt University, and I did some photometry with him with some of the first photometry. They're very glorified light meters is what they are, measure the brightness of stars. And I made 40 observations, 40 nights of this one particular star, Lambda Andromeda. And several months later, I was shocked to find a copy of the Astrophysical Journal in my mailbox. And I couldn't figure out what it was doing in there. That's a pretty lofty journal. Got to the second article in there, and the mystery was solved. I was shocked, and there I was listed as a co-author on that paper in the Astrophysical Journal with Douglas Hall of Vanderbilt University because of the work I supplied to him on that project. I worked with UCLA, the Department of Astronomy there. I worked with with a doctoral student and then postdoc student. So I worked with a number of prestigious groups, got co-authored on some papers that were published, and all the variable star work I did was and is recorded and archived and can be pulled out for future use and for future study. So long after someday when my name is cut in stone somewhere, that work that I did is still going to be there and can be drawn, pulled up, and used by future astronomers to study, and hopefully I'll have helped advance astronomy, that small little step, and I'll have done it as an amateur. As I say, that book, it could be classified actually in three sections. You can call it a memoir, you can call it an autobiography, and you could also put it in the inspirational aisle, because as I say, it was just a drive that I had to do scientific research, and being that I could not get the grades and get the degrees I needed, I did it as my own, as an amateur. It makes me feel pretty good. Like I say, the book, I'm going to give just most of these copies away, and if it sells a few on the side, great. I'm hoping, I do have a scientific publisher who is interested in it. I'm going to supply them a copy with it. Being that I self-published the book, I hold total rights to it, and hopefully I can get it picked up by this scientific publisher, and I will be able to get it printed. We'll get in a niche where it'll belong. It'll be with a bunch of astronomy works, and it'll be advertised around the world. I hope when the book, actually my first hard version of the book that I can hold in my hand, I will have next Monday or Tuesday. I hope to put a short video together, and I'll actually show you the book with me and my smiling face holding a published book. And who would have thought a kid that would go to the blackboard and about the only thing I could spell with any certainty at all was my own name, and this guy goes ahead and has the nerve to write a book. Anyway, actually, the thing was, it was a lot of fun. I turned out having a lot of things. Just came to my mind that I had forgotten about throughout my life. Things, some stupid things I did when I was a kid, where it got me wrapped up in running into barbed wire and some problems with some nails. I pounded into a tree at one time and did some stupid things with that, and there was lots of other little things in there. You remember. I remember finding Indian arrowheads over a place we called the Sandbank, and it was a lot of fun. But anyway, now that I've got this job done, I'm sitting there. Winter will be coming around again, and I don't have much to do. So I start thinking. I devoted one whole chapter of this first book to a project I did on a star called DQ Hercules, or Nova Hercules 1934. And so I've actually got the idea to go ahead and write a book on that project and that star. It'll require some research, give a little background on variable stars and what they are, the types, and how they help us learn things about how stars live and die. And then I'll go into the actual program that I did on my own, and stumbled on some interesting things that were going on with that star when I was studying it. So we'll see how that goes. It'll give me something to do this winter anyway. Well, that's enough babbling about a book. As you can see, as I've been moving around the moon here tonight, we got a really, really nice moon. I am really, really happy with this 12 millimeter eyepiece. Beautiful, beautiful images. Let me see. I'm right now. We're zoomed about halfway. Here, I'll show you the zoom on this eyepiece. We're halfway, and I'm going to zoom all the way up. I'm using the 5-inch. Give me a second here, and I'll remember what kind of telescope I'm using. It is the not the Smith-Newtonian, but the Smith-Cassegrain, the Skywatcher 5-inch. And it's an F12, I believe. Okay, that's zoomed all the way up with the 12 millimeter, and watch here. We see you can hear the popping and the noise here from leftover fireworks from last night. Actually sounded louder tonight than it did last night. And here we're zooming out now, using that again, that 12 millimeter. Actually, I can move and show a little more of the disk of the moon as we start to zoom out. You can see Clavius over there, right up near the top and right along the terminator. Let's see. So there it is. That's backed all the way out, and so that's quite a bit of zoom. Let's center up. How far am I into this video here so far? Wow, 28 minutes. Holy mackerel. As usual, I'm running around with my mouth, and I don't even realize how long I've taken. Let's zoom in here on Clavius. We're going to have to pull this up a little bit too, I think. One other thing too that's a little bit different tonight. I've actually gone ahead and invested finally in a good quality cooling pad for my computer. It's got a double fan on it. I bought it at Staples. Spent a little bit of extra money and went ahead and bought a good one, and it's holding up better. And so far I've yet to have a dropout where she's gone completely dead on me. So hopefully that was the problem. I'm feeling the computer now. There is some warmth there, but it's not broiling hot. So hopefully we've solved that problem too. Now, there was one other area I wanted to show you here on the moon here. I know we've talked about it in the past, but it's one of my favorite areas. And we got to come down, come down, come down. There's Ptolemaios. And we got to move over. Yeah, there we go. Okay, there, and it's center that little grouping of craters up right there in the center. Okay, almost dead center in the screen. We're almost zoomed in pretty good, so I can't zoom in any farther. But notice that crater in the center. I'm trying to get it. There it goes. I'm trying to get a little center better. Almost dead center. See, there's that double crater with a kind of a broken wall between them. That is the crater Murchison, but I've got to get to my map. I actually took the time to bring my map out here tonight. Okay, you're probably losing my voice because I'm over here moving myself around. Hang on one second. Yeah. Let me see. Yeah. Okay. The crater to the right, and I just dropped the mouse. The crater to the right is Murchison, and there's my mouse. I gotta find it. There it is. And then the crater to the left of that is Pallas. And if you remember last year, we talked about this area. This is one of those areas where the observers from the 1800s actually thought there was life in this area. They suspected buildings and structures, and I can't really see any signs of the dark areas they talk about, but I guess there are. Maybe if we were using an eyepiece that gave us a little more power, because I'm zoomed in now as far as I can. But notice there's some dark areas up that go up, going up towards the 1 o'clock region. There's an area of dark mass on the floor. That was suspected of being a possible area for life too. It was just fun to go back and look at those old days when they thought that there was actually life up there. And as you remember, I used to like to get into stories about that, and I still do. And we'll probably do some more of those in the future. There's the Apennine mountain range, the crater Eratosthenes at the very end of that range. There is the crater Archimedes, that flat-floored crater, and I'm having a little trouble. There we go. There it is, almost dead center. That's the crater Archimedes. And then if we go down, let me see. We've got to yeah, that's Eratosthenes, that crater there, that is at the end of the chain of why won't that reverse? Because I'm pushing the wrong button, dummy. That's why it won't reverse. Eratosthenes is right there. That's that crater right at the end of the mountain chain. Okay, I'm about 34 minutes in, so I've blabbed enough, and I hope I've moved around so you can at least get to look at some of these nice features of the moon as I was talking about my exploits as an unknown writer. But as I say, the book is available on Kindle. It's available through Amazon and Barnes & Noble. The prices they list, the hard hold in your hand book, I believe it's a soft cover book, is $19.99, and you can get the Kindle version for $3 and change, something like that. So if you're interested about reading about my exploits and what I did to, especially my younger years where I had a lot of fun, and what led to my years as astronomy and some of my exploits in astronomy, and you feel like you might like to check it out, have at it, and check it out. As I say, you don't have to be a professional to do research work. If you want to do research quality work, all it takes is a little bit of drive on yourself, and you just get out there and do it. Make contact with some of these groups that are out there that are looking for people that will make observations and help them out, and you can become part of those groups and actually do some good for astronomy. Notice they're almost dead square in the screen, and I'm almost max zoom, so we can't get any much closer. The Alpine Valley, see that little cut? It's just below center to the right. Okay, guys, with that, I'm going to end it here. Hopefully in a couple of days, I'm going to put a video together. I'll show you all the eyepieces I have for me. I still may be minus the one that's on back order, but I have all the rest of them. I can show you those, and hopefully show you a copy and discuss a little bit more of that adventure of mine about writing that book. And I can actually show you. They actually did a nice job, I think, on the cover. They used one of my photographs wrapped around the book, and then they put my ugly mug with my 16-inch telescope inside my observatory on the front cover. Okay, guys, so with that, I'm going to say clear skies, good health, you guys, and we'll see you shortly. And we'll do a little more jabbering about my exploits, and then hopefully we'll go back to some more information and interesting things on the moon. Take care, guys. We'll see you real soon.